Welcome back to Nostalgia Gate. What a huge showcase at Summer Games Fest this year. There are many great things. I'm going to be doing a little recap thing and putting that up in the next couple of days, just with my thoughts of that. But more of an emergency case scenario, I thought, was the heavily rumored and delivered Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Summer Games Fest trailer. This is a banger of a trailer. This is huge, as in it shows raw gameplay, it shows cutscenes, it hints at so many things, including the length of the game, the plot of some of the mysteries. A little bit, there's some stuff in there. It doesn't give it away. It's not like those heavy, heavily memed Final Fantasy VII Remake trailers when it got close to release, where they kind of spoiled a lot of the content. Um, I've made a lot of notes. I want to go over what I think of this, and I'm going to also on the same video go over the Ever Crisis trailer, which definitely got overshadowed. It's definitely something to look out for. Um, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on where I think this is all going. It'll be recorded a little bit out of order, but it should be put together in that order. So let's go. We're just going to start it because I'm going to just talk about what I think and in order, and then kind of go back and forth a little bit.
We're still here at the scene of this terrible disaster.
I must say, what an opening. The intrigue is through the roof. Everyone that I think, Jeff Keighley said, the rumors are true. It's a game that redefined JRPGs, or maybe just said RPGs, and then they go into, we can't wait to return to this world. The rumors are true, and then this opens, and the way it opens is insane. What is happening? You've got Midgar Sector 2 here. Why is it all destroyed, right? So, I'm just going to play a little bit more, and then I'm going to share my thoughts on this.
Caused by a massive tornado which swept through sectors 0, 1, and 2. Amidst the wreckage of the expressway, search and rescue operations are already in progress.
Okay, we're going to pause there for a second. Worth noting, spoilers for Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII OG, Final Fantasy VII Event Children, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. If you haven't played those and you don't want to be spoiled, I'm going to talk about anything in those games and what I think's happening in this game. So, and the movie. So, first off, opening scene is in Sector 2. Now, it is my understanding we've never even been to Sector 2. I'll get to that in a second. There is a tornado that has ripped through Sector 2, and as far as I can tell, this news bannering is completely different to the one we've seen in Remake. This is the Final Fantasy VII Remake cutscenes that someone uploaded to YouTube. I'm just going to showcase, thanks MK Ice and Fire, cool name. I'm just going to showcase, from what I remember, the news looking like on the Final Fantasy VII Remake timeline, or keep that word in mind, I'm getting ahead of myself. So here we go. This is Final Fantasy VII Remake gameplay from 3 years ago. That is Midgar today, the news channel that we see in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The difference is, yes, that is the same logo, but the placement is quite different. Now, this could be a, simple development error or something, but what I do believe is that coupled with Sector 2, a tornado we don't know about, I'm thinking some of this timeline shenanigans that we've been expecting in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I have a couple of other theories as well. Nothing's set in stone. There is no confirmation of what is happening, but let me just break down my thoughts here. I know we haven't even gotten more than 30 seconds into the trailer, and I'm already going like, whoa. Don't get too concerned here. This is pretty much the extent of their teasing of the timeline stuff of this trailer. They actually played this very smart, made this a very nostalgic trailer, as in it really caters to those hardcore nostalgias, the people that played the OG, right? But also it caters to the intrigue and the world building of the new stuff in a very tactful way. So what I'm thinking here is different timeline based on the Sector 2 destruction. I'll get to why I think that in a second. The tornado that we don't know about, and the different placement of the news channel, especially the news today being on the right hand side. We've seen with the chip packet and the scout, was it Scout, the dog logo? Forgetting his name. Things are different in the Zack. I'm gonna call it a timeline just for sake of ease. Timeline, right? The Zack Lives timeline is what I call it. The one that we saw at the end of remake. Um, and so what is really interesting here is as we go through,
caused by a massive tornado which swept through.
Barrett is being wheeled away on a what looks to be a hospital medical, medical what do they call them? Wheelchair. I'm thinking, the stretchers, right? The stretcher, right? Medical stretcher. Um,
Sector 0, 1,
the whole party
and 2.
is here. This Tifa looks to be in very bad shape. As what I mean by that is when they move her, she sort of just flops. I can't tell. I can't make a call on whether they are actually just dead or defeated. Um, but I got to be honest, Tifa looks pretty dead in this shot. If you see what I mean.
Amidst the wreckage of the expressway.
Okay, so if I'm gonna be bold here and say that I think some of these party members, if not all of them, are dead. If that is the case in this shot, and it is an alternate timeline, that means Zack is on his own, which is an interesting concept, right? With Crisis Core, Zack played the whole game's on his own. Um, what I think this is hinting to is the Zack portion of the game is Zack looking for Aerith, everything he wanted to do when he got back to Midgar, but Zack has lost Cloud, he's lost. I'll get to that in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself, I can't help it. Zack's lost Aerith. Zack is trying to find a way to uh, figure out what's happened, and then he somehow gets intertwined to the save the world shenanigans, right? That he always does find himself in. His whole world philosophy has been turned around with what he thought Soldier was and isn't. And so I think the goals that Zack may end on, the path that Zack may end up on, is very similar to the path that the Cloud and Co. are on in our Rebirth timeline, right? And everyone thinks this, I think, that believes in the timeline thing. That at some point Zack and Cloud's timeline is going to somehow merge, or maybe the goal is to fix the timeline stuff. And if we go back to the hints that Square Enix were giving out a week before the Rebirth trailer, the first one or second one said in Japanese said that fix the timeline, right? Not the English one, but the Japanese one translates to fix the timeline. And I think at some point the goal is going to be, okay, we need to fix this up because, whatever Sephiroth is doing, or dare I say it, what Genesis could be doing, is messing really hard with, the end goal, and the timeline needs to be sorted out. I think that is when these things will merge, and Zack will play the hero, and I think the game may end with the timeline stuff being fixed. Okay, that is my theory on the plot. What I think here is the camera pans very carefully here. Watch what happens when we go a little bit further on.
Search and rescue operations are already in progress.
Red 13, at this point, if this is an alternate timeline, so if this is an alternate timeline, Cloud isn't in the shot, and the party are all together. What I do think is interesting is the party seem to be all joined up. Without Cloud, Red 13's been taken from Shinra HQ. And this has happened, right? The expressway has collapsed. Where I think this takes place is the exact same point that Remake ended, but in Zack's timeline. If that makes sense, right? That's a little fuzzy to make sense of, but like, so imagine that we enter, in Remake timeline, we enter the portal that Sephiroth and Aerith open. We come out of it, Destiny's been changed. The Whispers are gone. Sephiroth has absorbed the Whispers. In my mind, Sephiroth has the ability to travel between these worlds, or things now. I'll get to that at the end of the trailer. Uh, as I said, the trailer doesn't actually hint at this timeline stuff very much, but there's a couple things at the start and the end. And so on top of that, they also very tactfully showcase that this has happened at this point. The camera pans and ends the scene on Aerith lying there. This is important, right? This is teasing the classic moment from OG, right? But also, if this is Zack's timeline, and Zack seeing this footage, this would be the emotional point, right? The pull. That his goal is sort of changed, right? Zack, in my mind, would be going after Sephiroth for everything that happens in Crisis Core, the way it ends. He would want to see Aerith again. He would want to try and save Cloud. All this stuff is failing. What's his last goal? His whole world philosophy's been changed on what Shinra and Soldier are, and he's also got his hero personality. So I think his goal actually ironically lines up with the party's quite nicely. Okay, the next shot is so brief, it lasts a second. But I think it single-handedly confirms the expressway. If all of this doesn't convince you, I think this single-handedly confirms that this happens at the exact same point that remakes Whispers Sephiroth. Chapter 18 happens, right? All that timeline shenanigans. Look at this. This is the expressway. This is the exact same shot of the expressway when we enter it. Remember when we go through the portal, we come out and the world is mirrored, right? We come through on the end of the expressway and we're going the other way, right? This is a feather. This is that Sephiroth iconography. It's a vision or something at ends, right? There's something there, like that's that classic Cloud vision transition, and it ends. That could be a trailer effect, but I think that is actually in-game capture. This is my thoughts on that opening scene. That is a lot. That has taken us it's taken us like 11 minutes, but that is pretty much everything for the timeline stuff. I'll get to the end of that at the very end of the trailer. We're going to go forward now with everything else notable in this awesome packed trailer. The unknown journey continues. If you remember at the end of Remake, the last credit before the credits, the last thing that happens is you get some text saying the unknown journey will continue. Right after that, all that Destiny stuff has been shattered, and we don't know what could happen. Now, remember, this kind of divided the fan base a little bit, and everyone said, okay, are we going to completely forego everything that we wanted Remake to be? You know, everyone wanted a one-to-one remake, or are we going to go and have a one-to-one remake, right? This trailer does all that timeline confirmation stuff in that first 30 seconds. I call it confirmation. Some people call it different things. There are naysayers. I get it. I'm sorry. I see it for what it is, I think. The unknown journey continues is the same piece of text. And then your question about whether it's a one-to-one, if it's going to be similar, or if it's going to be completely different, is answered. We get the party going into the world, outside of Midgar, and we see it.
It's so green.
And then the trailer continues to go to hit point after point, locations that you travel to in the original, events that happen in the original. That is the answer, and that's what the directors have been telling us. We're going to hit all the beats of the original game, but there is new stuff, and the situations may be slightly different. There is no, there is no longer a Destiny thing. That's the point that I think they're going for, right? Zack is actually, if he's alive, which he is in his timeline, I think, he's got to be end up doing the same thing because his goals actually end up aligning perfectly with the parties under the assumption that Aerith is dead, Cloud is dead, and his goals are now focused on Shinra and Sephiroth, right? That's actually a really good setup for why he would be super laser focused on the same goals as the party are. And then, I think, and that's interesting because that's, I think, what the Breaking of Destiny thing really is, right? Only Sephiroth really knows what's going on. I'll get to that in a second as well. They do touch on that. But also, the beats are being hit, but things may happen in slightly different orders, or things may be different because the characters themselves are no longer bound by this force that was introduced into remake that made things happen the way they did, right? Things can end up in a very different thing. I think the end game is going to be slightly different. We're going to get a conclusion to the whole compilation of the game, probably in the third part, but this is, as was stated, this is like the Empire Strikes Back level mid entry in the whole trilogy of Final Fantasy R project. But what is interesting is that they do hit the beats in the same way in every shot of this trailer, and I think they are, as I said, they're laser focused on the nostalgic crowd. They've got two audiences in the game: the completely new guys, the nostalgic crowd, and they're catering to both, and they've said that the whole way through in interviews. But the interesting thing is things are going to be different, and that's the reality. And they do not shy away from showing that in this trailer. The dialogue is what showcases that things are different. Just listen to some of the things that characters are saying. Some of the things they remember. The party does not have amnesia, right? They did not pull that fast one on us. They do not. They remember everything that happened at the end of the remake. They've met Sephiroth. They fought Sephiroth. That has a huge impact on the story. It's brought up in the first, what I imagine is the first part of Rebirth.
Even after everything
The
we've
world
done
is
to it,
enormous.
it's still going
Look at,
strong.
It may look that way.
we get to explore this stuff.
But in reality, it's barely hanging on.
Was wondering, what's Cloud been doing these past 5 years? Where's he been?
And you're asking me this?
This is gonna sound crazy, but as far as I know, Cloud was never in Nibelheim 5 years ago.
Okay, we're getting that. We're getting that dialogue about Nibelheim and Cloud not being there. That misremembering, all those beats are in the game, but they're alluding to it in a bit of an earlier setup because the game is tactfully changing. It's approaching the Zack Cloud story a lot differently, right? So it makes sense. But what was interesting about all this is that we don't know when that dialogue actually takes place. It is dialogue over top of different capture. However, what is interesting about it is it shows that this story is obviously the same, and you see that over top of classic locations such as the overworld map. You see this over the Chocobo farm, which is interesting that Red 13 is just lying there. I do think I will touch on the party system and what I think is actually happening here in a moment towards the end, and then you have the Chocobo movement. I think this will happen a lot earlier than in the original. You can see you've got all these different. You can get off of the Chocobo when you want. What is interesting is the whole party seems to be on here at once, which I do think is something that I didn't expect, but I'll get to that in a moment.
Cloud was never in Nibelheim 5 years ago.
The life stream.
Bergen Hagen.
It is the very essence of our star. The blood
This game is going to be
coursing through its
huge,
planetary
and they
veins.
confirmed that at the end of the
According
trailer.
to Hojo, they're connected to Sephiroth.
The cave.
Shadows of the
I
Net.
don't know who says this line. That is the one thing I can't figure out. It could just be an NPC, and it might not matter. It might be there to kind of put us off.
I believe he called them.
Sephiroth was in Midgard.
Sephiroth was in Midgar, so they confirm the party knows exactly what happened. They're not pulling a fast one, which I didn't expect, but some people did, and this is going to radically change the events of the game.
Fought him. Whatever happened, he's alive.
But why come back now? After 5 years, doing who knows what?
Well now, think we woke it up.
Angered it, more like.
Feast your eyes on the Turk's latest and greatest, Elena.
She may be new, but she's still a Turk.
I do want to just point out here that we have waypoints. I think this is a orange thing as a user-defined waypoint. That the world is so big that we actually get to set waypoints this time around. Something I really want in a remake. And that is amazing. We have a new HUD, so it's the same system, and technically the same HUD, but, you know, there's different designs for when, different color schemes for when things aren't being pressed and things like that. But if you'll notice here, there are these little blue bars, and I can't work out what they're for. What I am assuming is they are for calling a party member that isn't in your party. Now, they don't really outright confirm this is a feature, but they do a lot of quick cutting that makes me think that you have this ability. And I remember in Remake where we had those cutscenes where the team just sort of worked together and the game cuts. They had an interview recently where they tried to talk about and kind of slip in that we're trying to get away from that and actually have gameplay there, right? And if you notice that scene where Cloud and Aerith and Tifa seem to be working together, I think that is a... And you'll notice this bar has gone down for each character. I think in the previous shot it was up, I'll just double check that. But then they all seem to be working together. And it's gone down again. And then they all seem to be working together in the shot. I think that is gameplay, and then some sort of like cut, and that is user-defined, user-called. You'll notice the bar is up before that, and I think that's Square's way of actually kind of teasing this whole thing. And even before that, oh, that's a different set of gameplay. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about that. I'm not 100%. Junon, we're going to be doing some battles right outside Junon, insane. New quest marker, not quite sure what that is. Side quest confirmed, obviously we're getting that. Yuffie's ability from intermission where she combos with other people are back. That icon confirms it. Seems separate from the combo system that I was talking about. Junon Bird, I believe.
They say she's a
Sephiroth's design is different here, I swear.
monster. That she can peer and
This seems to be the Sephiroth that turns into Jenova on the Junon battle in the original. But what I do think is, for some reason, I just think they've changed
that
something
she
up
can
here,
hear.
and this is the Sephiroth that we have been fighting in the different, you know, dimension. I'm thinking that this design is symbolizing, they're going to try and symbolize visually the Sephiroth that is traveling between the timelines. I think this is the design that, you know, this is the conquering Sephiroth, right? This is the one that has gone beyond all of the stuff that's happened in the up to Event Children, gone back and done all this crazy timeline stuff. This is the one that is changing reality and bending it to his will, right? I think this is I don't know, like an ego-focused design or something, like something symbolizing that. I don't know why. It looks like he does turn into Jenova here, but I think it's a quick, cheeky cut to make it look like that. As in,
peer and
it does seem seamless, but I do wonder if it's a really good cut.
she can peer inside
I'm a little less confident on that one than all my other theories, but
you, into the very depths of your soul.
it is an
That she
interesting
can
thing.
become those you hate,
I do wonder why it's a different design.
those you fear. Those
But he does seem to be talking about stuff that like, I don't know, Genova talking about Genova, but itself just to scare the party seems a bit strange.
You love.
Green. Yeah.
This is an interesting shot of Cloud here.
You murdered my dad!
And then we get more confirmation that Sephiroth is messing with Cloud.
You know that I killed her. So, who is she?
And then we get the big reveal. The game is coming out 2024, early 2024, on 2 PS5 discs. PS5 discs max out at like 100 gigabytes, 120 I think. It may just be like 180, but that is still a massive game, to say the least, right? I think we are going all the way to Northern Crater with an open zone world exploration. But, you know, we've also got that Zack stuff in there too. It's going to be massive. There's a lot to unpack here. But yeah, we seem to have new gameplay elements with different waypoints and quest lines and the combo system. I think we keep our materia. I think it's subtly hinted at. I think if you look at the characters, they've got low HP, right? I think what's happening is we've reset our HP, right, to make the game fair. But I think we've kept our equipment, but it's all been lowered and buffed down. But if you notice in cutscenes, everyone seems to have their materia.
We fought him.
And if this is calm, like I think it is, that is the first place we go to.
Whatever happened?
Like, I'm not saying we'll have all our crazy, like, summon materia and stuff in the same way, but I think we do keep a lot of the stuff that we have. And the equipment.
Alive.
But why come back now? After 5 years, doing who knows what.
What I do hope is that our levels are still the same, that the levels no longer mean anything. Like, level 50 is now like level 1, you know what I mean? Because I think they'll just keep it kind of nice and coherent. They're like one big journey. But that is pretty much everything that I have
Feast your eyes on the
for the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth trailer. What did you think of this amazing trailer, confirming so much and so little, but somehow so much, you know? It is amazing me how they've actually pulled this off. That is that for the Rebirth trailer. I do think this timeline stuff is real. I think at this point, who can deny it? But I think that opening shot is all the confirmation we need to see how this is going to play out. That and also the original trailer, right? That shows Zack walking with Cloud, almost there, Cloud. Feel like I failed you. I think that it's too Cloud, right? It's going to open with Zack realizing that he can't save Cloud. He can't save the party. I think that intermission scene was teasing that at the end, that he couldn't find Aerith. All that stuff seems to be, like, confirmed, right? He's going on that journey. Yeah, that's all I have for that. There is also the Ever Crisis trailer, which was also intense. I do think this game got overshadowed. They showed it in the show before the Rebirth trailer. This game looks amazing as well. Pre-sign-ups now. I can't seem to sign up in my country, but if I can, I'm going to get into this game. I hope it comes to console. I think it does deserve a console port. I think it'll be played a lot more if it is on console. I know they see it from a mobile install base, but the thing is, your fans are playing your main games on console. I think it is definitely worth your time to invest in that market. But, you know, what do I know? Young hero Sephiroth. The Gantra elements with the Genesis attire, the attire from Event Children, the sword from Event Children. This is gonna be one hell of a Gantra game. got side quests and daily quests. It's gonna be a fun game. I think this is looking way more promising than First Soldier. I think it always was. But I'm excited to play it. You know. It looks insane for a mobile game too. First Soldier looks like an interesting actual playthrough. Yeah, First Soldier storyline. I like the UI. I think it looks a lot better than it was looking in the previous Ever Crisis trailer.
俺は正義の味方だからな。なるほど。では敵だな。
Excited. I don't have a lot to say, but I really want to play this. I hope it does get ported. I think it needs a good port to console. Well, that is my thoughts on the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Summer Games Fest trailer and the Ever Crisis Summer Games Fest trailer. What did you think about these trailers? Am I completely off point with my theories? Let me know below. And please stay tuned. At the end of the weekend, I am going to publish a thoughts on the Summer Games Fest as a whole, and I'm looking forward to doing that. So stay tuned for that and more on Nostalgia Gate. We've got a lot more coming this month, including a PS Plus video where I try to complete my PS Plus backlog, which is very fun, and it includes a little trip to LA and Mexico that I took. Just a little trip. Anyway, so stay tuned. Please let me know if you enjoyed this. Do the usual like and subscribe stuff if you enjoyed it and you want to see more. Hit the bell if you want to be notified. If you don't, that is all cool as well. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.